The road from Rangoon to the town of Labuta is hard for both cars and people. On a good day, the journey takes 8 hours. On a bad day, 13. Foreign journalists and tourists are not normally allowed into this area, but the Red Cross has convinced the authorities to let us in. They want the world to see the difficulties still facing this region's people 6 months after Cyclone Nargis hit here in May 2008. Labuta had around 60,000 inhabitants before the cyclone. It was hit hard. Hundreds of people lost their lives and most of the buildings were damaged by heavy winds and flooding. Today, Labuta is getting back on its feet. Actually, this is a prosperous town. The fishing industry and the intensive trade to and from the Irrawaddy Delta provide steady income for its inhabitants. Although life is returning to normal, hidden scars remain. In her well-ironed blouse and green skirt, 17-year-old Cho Cho Tin looks like other schoolgirls here in Labuta. But she lost her mother and father in the cyclone. She has no brothers and sisters, and today she lives at an orphanage together with 6 other children. I feel so sad when it is raining, because I am so afraid that it will happen again. I cry every day when people ask about my parents. 3,000 schools were destroyed during the cyclone, and many of the 130,000 victims were children. 11-year-old So Mao Tao lost his parents and all his 10 brothers and sisters. Cho Cho Tin has become both big sister and mother for him and the other children. I was the only child in my family. Now I live with these children. I take care of them as if they were my own sisters and brothers. I help cook for them and I bathe them. Labuta is the centre for relief work in the region. Every day organisations like the Red Cross delivered mosquito nets, tarpaulins and food to people in the Delta. The cyclone struck 6 months ago, but still relief has not reached everybody.
Even though we would say that we are moving from relief to recovery, there are still some pockets that we need to get access to so that we can provide relief supplies to them.
The journey to the Delta is not easy. After 2 hours' ride, a relief boat loaded with tools, food and mosquito nets reaches a small village that lost 10 inhabitants and all its houses. Kin Ta Yi tells of how the water reached up to her neck. For 6 hours she stood on a wooden box, holding on tightly to her children. I am afraid when it rains, and there are heavy winds. I fear new cyclones. The children are also afraid that it will happen again. The rice will soon be harvested, but salt water has penetrated the paddies, and nobody knows if the next harvest will be enough to feed the 25 families in the village. We especially lack food and cooking tools and plates. I cannot even collect rainwater. My only pot was lost. At the time of the cyclone, media reported that relief was being delayed because of strained relations between the regime and international donors. president of the Burma Red Cross was appointed by the military junta. When we talked to him about the aid efforts, he talked about other problems.
The biggest challenge, I would say, is transportation. Getting to reach all of the affected communities out in the distant rural areas. And then another challenge that we find is getting this communication between the field teams and us out in the offices, at headquarters, in the field offices, since all of our volunteers are out working in the field in small distant villages, on boats, on motor cars. So we had trouble keeping in contact with them.
The relief boat takes us to the next village. It is hot and extremely humid. Organisations like the Red Cross have distributed thousands of tons of food, millions of chlorine tablets and other goods. But 2.5 million people were affected by the cyclone. Dengue fever, tuberculosis and malaria are widespread and hit the most vulnerable hard. Whilst most people have shelters and no longer have to sleep outside, their simple houses were built hurriedly and will not withstand heavy rain. One of the relief workers says that the poor building quality is one of their most difficult challenges.
They're very resilient people, I think, very resilient. So they're used to having to deal with difficult circumstances, and they're putting their houses back together. Start with something small and grow, but they need that a bit of assistance to get through the first 6 to 12 months.
The villagers say that they have even more urgent problems than well-built houses. Jobs are scarce, and so is food. Since the cyclone we have had little food. Sometimes if we get some work we can afford food, other days nothing. Kintachi's husband lost his boats and his nets, so did 50 other fishermen in the village. We don't have any fishing equipment left, and no money to buy new gear. After 3 days in the delta, I realized that the villages I had visited were not unique in any way. This is what it is like in thousands of villages. After the tsunami in 2004, aid from all over the world flowed into the affected countries. But Burma is closed off to the world, and 6 months after the cyclone that claimed so many lives, the relief organisations are still struggling to provide the barest daily necessities.